Welcome to the Volpe Report podcast, the state's premier public affairs show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians. I'm your host, Chuck Volpe. Join us now as we speak to this week's guest.
The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
It's an honor and a privilege to welcome you to this week's edition of the Volpe Report. Usually Chuck does his show in studio, but this week and next week he'll be coming to you from the Midtown Hilton in New York City. Chuck hosts his show from here because the Pennsylvania Society Dinner is also going on here. The Pennsylvania Society Dinner has been going on for 126 years. Chuck's been hosting a party in conjunction with that for 33 years. This year in 2024 may be a little different because the word is that next year the Pennsylvania Society Dinner will go back to the Waldorf Astoria where it originally started. But for now, we have some great interviews and some great topics. So here is this week's edition of the Volpe Report.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial, the area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Senator.
Good to see you, Chuck.
I can't tell you what a nice ring that has. Senator-elect Dave McCormick.
Feels good to be here and honored to have that, be able to call me that.
Well, let me tell you what, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family. January 3rd is looming for your inauguration and a great day in Pennsylvania. I can't tell you how pleased I am for you and how I believe fortunate the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is to have someone like you represent them.
Chuck, thanks so much. I feel honored to do it. It was obviously a tough campaign, but I feel like my message got through of the kind of positive leadership and problem solving we need. And I feel honored to have the opportunity to represent every single Pennsylvanian. Roughly half of Pennsylvania didn't vote for me. Right. And this is my opportunity to go serve the Commonwealth, every single person, and try to bring solutions to the problems that face Pennsylvanians. And the one thing we heard in the election loud and clear was they want change. And so this is my opportunity.
There's no question. And it must be stated for the record, there has been a Robert P. Casey, and then Jr., serving in statewide office since the mid-1960s.
Yeah.
That's 60 years of a Casey. So I know I've told you this personally, but it bears repeating. The significance, winning a statewide office in one of the top states in our country, like Pennsylvania for U.S. Senator, is an achievement, the most exclusive club in the world, right? They call it. But to do it not as beating Fetterman, as you had set out to do 2 years ago, but to then have to run against a guy who doesn't lose elections, three-term United States Senator, longest-serving Democratic Senator consecutively in Pennsylvania, and then you beat like a giant. I've said David and Goliath, and the fact that your name is Dave is appropriate for that. But Dave, what the significance to me is, we talked a little earlier in past even interviews. I remember day one, and you're facing an uphill battle. Everybody knows Dr. Oz.
Right.
Everybody. So this is the 2022 primary, and there's all kinds of money. Clearly, President Trump had been supporting him. There were neighbors in Palm Beach and all that. And against insurmountable odds, you came within 900 votes.
Yeah.
I mean, the closest election statewide in Pennsylvania history. And you put your shoulder to the grindstone. We talked after that election. You wrote a brilliant book that identified Pennsylvania's problems in the future and how we need to deal with them. And then you went and did what you did. So when you get to Washington, you've already been there for orientation, but when you get there, what's the first thing you're going to put on your plate?
Well, just on the race, to your point, unfortunately in life, but it's always the case, there's no straight lines. Very few people have success where they're just successful on top of successful. It's through sometimes losing or failing that you test your mettle, you test your strength, your resilience, and you learn. And I learned a lot in the first campaign that I was able to apply to the second campaign. But the most important thing was that I tapped into something that was very real. So did President Trump, which is that people across Pennsylvania are tired. They want change, and government's not been doing a good job of serving their needs. And so we heard loud and clear that this inflation is destroying working families, and we need to have economic policy that really creates high-paying jobs, stops inflation, brings down prices, and creates opportunity for everybody. We heard loud and clear that the border has to be closed, and this fentanyl crisis has to be stopped. We heard loud and clear in Pennsylvania that we need to unlock natural gas, which is a source of new jobs and opportunity. And so that's what the 90-day agenda is. We got to secure the border on day one, stop the flow of fentanyl. I think we should probably go across the border with our military selectively to take out the cartels. We need to pass extend the Trump tax cuts, which were great for middle-class families, but we need to improve on it. Right. We need to give child tax credits. We need to give an IVF tax credit. We need to create new opportunities by bringing manufacturing home. I think President Trump's trade policies will do that. And we need to unlock our energy. And so, we'll see what committees I get, but I've asked for committee assignments that allow me to work directly on the issues that I ran on, energy, the border, the economy, so I can be part of solving the problems that are affecting Pennsylvanians.
I would hope that maybe even they'll find your way, or you'll find your way into a committee on foreign affairs or relative to military oversight with your background at West Point, of course, and your actual service to this country in action, like in combat. And I think that'd be good. And I have to ask you your opinion. A lot of controversy, Pete Hegseth at this point. It's clearly one of those flashpoint type of confirmation processes. I have to tell you, I saw him do an interview just a few days ago when the momentum had been building. There were even stories he might withdraw and all that. And he looked at all of them in the eye, and he pretty much spit in their eye, and he said, I'm not going anywhere. This is baloney. There were no charges. No prosecutor would take these cases, and I'm going to dictate, on my terms, and I want to put my case before the United States Senate. I imagine he'll have a friend in you.
He has the absolute right to do that. Listen, here's my view on it. President Trump won a clear mandate.
Of course. We
need to support President Trump having the team that can bring about the change that he's asked for. He said who he wants his team to be, and I think that we need to give him every opportunity to have that team. Now, the Senate has a responsibility to advise and consent.
Of course.
So I'm taking that very seriously. I expect that I'll meet with Pete sometime next week and be able to ask the questions myself. But I don't, I lived through a campaign where a lot of lies were told.
Right.
I don't spend a lot of time worrying about what the New York Times is saying.
Exactly.
I'll ask my questions and I'll learn for myself. And I want to make sure that I fulfill my responsibilities. But we need to bring change about, and Pete's laid out a vision for how he wants to do that.
There's no doubt. Well, I know how busy you are, U.S. Senator, and I'm honored you would stop by this party. I'm honored to call you my friend. I will always be there, as I have been, to support.
Chuck, you're the best.
Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the opportunity to always be on your show, your support. And just for your viewers, I am honored to have this opportunity. I'm going to go into the next 6 years in the Senate, just like I campaigned, putting it all on the mat, as I talked about in the campaign as a wrestler. And I think that's what Pennsylvania deserves. And I'm proud to give it all I got. So thank you.
Godspeed, my friend. Merry Christmas to you and Dina.
Merry Christmas.
We had, of course, the pleasure of his wife in my party in the ballroom. Better half. Well, let me tell you what. The first time I met your wife, she was at an event for Congressman Dan Muser.
Yeah.
You were running for the primary for U.S. Senate. This is 2 years ago. And the consensus was pretty much that having her out front was not a bad thing.
She's everybody keeps saying, when's she going to run?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just glad to have her as my wife. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Again, thanks, Dave. Congressman, Merry Christmas, Rob.
Merry Christmas. Great to be back.
I can't tell you, I just recently had the pleasure of saying what a pleasure it is to call U.S. Senator-elect Dave McCormick has just been on, and now it's truly a pleasure to call you Congressman Rob Bresnan, Congressman-elect.
Congressman-elect.
So Democrats call us on that. But as we were just reminiscing, and I'd like you to talk about that, it was just about almost 1 year ago to this day at the Pennsylvania Society Dinner in New York, on this set for Fox for my annual Christmas party television show, that you made your announcement that you were going to take on a very formidable 6th-term United States Congressman, House Appropriations Chairman, Matt Cartwright. And I got to tell you, when you first came on this show and I looked at you, I thought, God, he looks awfully young. When I ran for governor 30-some years ago, they said, Chuck, you never had a chance. You don't look old enough. You need a little. So I thought, geez, can he actually pull off beating on one of the top Democrats in the leadership of this country, House Appropriations Chairman? He looks like he could be running for college class president. And then I heard you speak. And I heard what you said to the audience. And I heard you tell them your reasons for running. And I said, that's a wonderful message. If he has the money and he has the will to campaign as hard as you actually ended up doing, of course, it's always possible. But another David and Goliath situation. Congratulations.
Thank you. And actually, the only difference, I think I'm still wearing the same exact tuxedo.
I flipped out my jacket. I went with the white, the James Bond jacket tonight.
I love it. Monochromatic. That's my colors, white and black. And the only difference is we were sitting this way, looking out towards the Christmas tree. So I like the inverted set here.
Right.
But listen, it's been an incredible experience. I'm so excited to get to work. We've been building out the district level team, our DC team, making sure our constituency services will be met with what the people of Northeastern Pennsylvania are used to. And I'm just so blessed by the opportunity to serve my home and give back in a totally different way.
So I asked the same question to Dave. What's first on your wish list? What's the first thing you're going to do? The margin is slim, and you sit here in a way, in a very more than powerful position than it comes with being a U.S. congressman anyway. You went right to your next door there, Ryan McKenzie, congressman-elect, right here in Northeastern Pennsylvania, in this media market, basically. You two are the reason the Republicans, the last I heard was 219, 216, because the 220, you're going to lose one for an administration position.
Right.
So you're up 3. And if you and he don't win, the Democrats have the majority.
You're right. And Speaker Johnson is not the Speaker of the House. Right. We are in the minority. But you know what I just said? I said it's an economy that works, it's borders that are secure, and it's communities that are safe. And I forecast in the first 100 days, you're going to see a lot of work to be done through budget reconciliation.
Right.
And I am very confident that southern border will be a day 1 or a day 2 priority, as well as cauterizing the tax cuts. 199A and the impacts it has on our small businesses and the way that it employs our small businesses employees inside of our community. So, I mean, those are tangible results and benefits that we're going to feel if that is not cauterized. So I would venture to guess that'll be something that'll be within the first week agenda.
That sounds wonderful. Well, Congressman, I know you have a lot of events and a lot of affairs to get to. I'll say the same thing I said to Dave. Godspeed on your journey. I am very confident, and I sleep better night knowing you're one of the people representing our country and representing our state and representing our media market here in Northeast and Central Pennsylvania.
Well, I appreciate that.
On your journey.
And I want you to hold me accountable. And I want your viewers at home to hold me accountable on what I ran on to deliver for the people of Northeastern Pennsylvania. So again, thanks for giving me the chance, and I won't let you down.
And you're going to be a regular on my show. So,
absolutely.
We're going to start. You're logging the visit so far. Rob, Merry Christmas to you and your lovely fiance Chelsea. So
Thank
have
you.
a great holiday.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Well, Madam President, welcome back to the Volpe Report. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And you're really a face my audience has seen many times and knows who you are. For the few that may not, you are now the past president of the distinguished and venerable Pennsylvania Society. And I don't know how many years, but I know the first Pennsylvania Society was in the 1800s.
Yes, it was.
All those years, we went all the way through the 20th century, and now we're almost a quarter way through the 21st century. It is one of the great societies. And as you're well aware, it is also, in terms of power, it has been a magnet for the most powerful members of both the United States government, state governments in New York and Pennsylvania, and others come to this. If you want to be a presidential candidate, you come to this. If you want to run for governor in Pennsylvania or New York, you come to this. So you served as president of that society. Congratulations. That's a tremendous honor. But having said that, you've left that office. It's in your rearview mirror. So talk a little bit about the meaning of this society to you and what you thought you did in your term there to advance it and what we can look forward to the future of the society.
Well, it's a great question. So I'm the immediate past president. I just finished the end of last May.
Okay.
And there's two things that we really worked on when I was president, two initiatives that I think are going to carry us in the future. One was to make sure we have at least 2 regional events every year, in addition to our annual meeting, which this year, my outgoing meeting was in Scranton in May.
Right.
But we need to have 2 regional cocktail parties in addition, networking events, meetings for our membership to be together and to break bread. So we're doing those 2 things in addition to New York, in addition to our annual meeting, 2 other meetings around Pennsylvania. And the other thing we're doing is we created something called the Keystone Council. Keystone Council are young people, but young meaning 30 to 45, whatever they are, but they're
It's young to me.
Right. So these are young leaders around the Commonwealth who care about civility, who care about community, who want to give back, and they believe in the society. They're members of the society, and they want to make sure that the society continues into the future. So we created this council. We had our a big event before I left as president, and they had a cocktail party here tonight, welcoming new young people. So we want to foster the next generation of society members, and that's what we created with the Keystone Council.
Wow. Well, I know we talked off air a bit about this, and it bears mention. For many, 100 years, however long it was, this dinner famously was at the famous Waldorf Astoria. And this is my, believe it or not, this 33rd year of this party that I've had. 33 years of doing this party. Literally, going back to my first party, if I had left and got reincarnated, I could have lived a whole nother lifetime of doing this party, and now I sit here about to turn 65.
Oh my gosh, you don't look 65.
Well, thank you. The hard miles are on the inside. That's why I keep my jacket buttoned. But having said all that, there's chance now, and I asked you this question off air, and I'll now put it on the record. The big question was, would it ever go back? Because for the last, 5 or 6 years, it's been here. It had a great
7,
venue.
yep.
7 years, the Hilton Midtown. But having said that, always the question people would ask me, is it ever going to go back to the Waldorf? And I just asked you, so why don't you answer for our viewers?
We're going back. This is the last year at the Hilton. Next year, we will be at the Waldorf. The Waldorf is going to open this spring. We will be not one of the first events, which is good. I helped negotiate the contract. We didn't want to be the first event. We wanted them to have a few events to make sure that they get all the kinks out. But yes, so next year, it will be the second week of December, like it used to be.
It always was.
Right. So we moved for the Hilton. We had to move the first week. We're going to be the second week of December next year at the Waldorf.
Wonderful. Well, we'll get you out of here on this. You have a very obviously famous father. Was a good friend of my father.
Yes.
Was a person as a young lawyer I looked up to. Was an inspiration. He was a prosecutor, a great one. He went all the way up to become Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that's, of course, Ernie Priate.
Yes.
Still a friend. I actually had a chance to talk to him at the Lackawanna County Republican dinner recently.
Well, he's here tonight too. I gotta find him. I lost him. He was trying to find me. I gotta find him. I lost him.
Well, we're gonna, if we can get him, we'd love to.
I'll go find him
to say hello to him. But the reason I'm saying that, he served as Attorney General of Pennsylvania, and you have recently been given the honor of being pretty much the leader of the transition team for our incoming Attorney General of Pennsylvania, Dave Sunday, a man that was on my show in studio, of course, at Fox.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit how that's going. This is the first time in years we've had a Republican Attorney General.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So, about a year and a half ago, I met with Dave Sunday, and we talked about what his belief was about how he needed to win, his belief in redemption and accountability, both of those things. And he said, I want you to be on my team. And I said, absolutely, I'll be on your team. And it sort of morphed into me being the co-chair of his committee, but his campaign committee. But I ended up being active on a daily basis, even though I'm a practicing lawyer every day. I got involved. Dilworth-Paxson, yep. And so after he won, he said, I'd really like you to co-chair my campaign transition. And we're interviewing lots of lawyers. I'm the only lawyer leading the transition.
Wow.
So I end up being tasked with doing a lot of the legal work, which is, I'm happy to do it. And I know the office because of my father. I grew up with my dad being the Attorney General, as you know.
Of course.
And I remember, what the breakdown was, sort of the organizational chart of the AG's office, and how important the people are that he relied on, his lead assistant AGs, deputy attorney generals. So, by the way, there's some of them are still there.
Wow.
Right. So these are nonpartisan guys, women too, who have really just done a fantastic job in the AG's office for decades. And AG Sunday is somebody who's going to come in. He's going to put his own imprint on the office, just like my father did. Right. But a little different for Sunday because he's taking over for a Democrat. And in the office, although run by Michelle Henry, it's still Josh Shapiro's office.
Of course.
And so Dave's got to come in and really figure out what direction does he want to go in and who does he want to hire. And so sort of been like drinking water out of a fire hose. But he's doing a great job. I think probably in a couple of weeks we'll find out what the full transition team looks like. And he will be inaugurated on January 21st. And it's,
Wonderful.
Off to the races.
Will you continue on in some fashion with his administration?
So it's nice of you to ask that question. He said that to me too. But I love practicing at Dilworth Paxson. I'm a municipal lawyer. I'm a finance lawyer, and I represent also the National Constitution Center, which is just the most fabulous institution, nonprofit institution, one of the best in the country.
Right.
And so I intend to stay in my private practice for now, but I love assisting the general elect in picking some of the best and brightest to help lead us in Pennsylvania in the future.
Well, Liz, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
It's great to see you. Always have the best event here.
I'm
happy
much.
to be here.
From the Madam President of the Society, that's a high honor. Thank you, Liz. Take care.
Good to see you. Thank you.
General-elect Dave Sunday.
It's
Congratulations.
Thank
Welcome
you
to
so
the
much.
Christmas special of the
Yes.
Volpe Report.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. I feel, quite frankly, I just feel blessed. I feel honored. It's just a tremendous experience, and I'm ready to go.
Well, I'm thrilled and I'm honored, and as I told you off air, I sleep better at night. One of the things about my show when I would say it hit critical mass,
right,
is that I had been on the air for 7 or 8 years, and I was getting to a point, very honestly, where I didn't know if it mattered anymore, and it served kind of its purpose. And I'll tell you the story. March 14th or 15th of 2020, I'm leaving my office to interview a top Republican strategist, actually, as it turned out, Vince Galco, Mercury Public Affairs. And on my way out the door, who's here tonight, my executive assistant, Karen, runs out after me. Said, Chuck, before you go, did you hear what just happened? I said, no, I was getting ready for the show. Said, the governor just called a news conference to announce he's shutting down Pennsylvania in a few days. Whoa, I'm a lawyer.
Right.
The governor can't shut down the state. No, Chuck, he declared emergency powers. He's shutting down the state of Pennsylvania. And at that moment, Dave, my whole show changed. We had a mission then. We had to tell the people what our Democratic governor and other Democratic governors around the country were doing to American citizens and to our citizens.
Right.
And this is where I'm going to get to you now and how important your campaign was. As that went forward, we did not have we had a Democratic Attorney General, now Governor, Josh Shapiro. He was a rubber stamp for everything Governor Tom Wolf did to destroy our state.
Right.
And I remember thinking myself, I actually know this. I was considering running for Attorney General myself as a Republican because somebody had to put a stop to this. But I heard you were running. And I said, he's been a great prosecutor in this Commonwealth down in York County.
Right.
He's going to be a great candidate. I threw my support to you.
Thank you.
And here you sit as Attorney General-elect of Pennsylvania. So talk about the campaign first and what was a great victory.
I mean, it's amazing. I can't tell you how grateful I am. As a career prosecutor, I've spent my entire legal career fighting for law and order. And I think it is unbelievably critical that we get back to a place where we respect the law and that we follow the rule of law. Because as a society, if we're not at a place where that's where all of our decisions come from, we're not in a good state of affairs. And so, I mean, I'm just so grateful to be here. The campaign was hard, and I have a young son and I have a family, and my wife is standing right there. And I can tell you as my number one job in the world is dad. And so because of that, I can tell you it was a tough race. being away from your family, being away from home, having people say things that are absolutely untrue about you.
Lies.
Lies. I mean, I just, it's hard, but the reality is it should be hard because this job is so important. Being the Attorney General, you are a check and balance on really everything that goes on in Pennsylvania. Right. And when we look at the state as a whole.
And in Washington. And in Washington.
And when you look at the state as a whole, we have a lot of challenges. We have gang violence, which absolutely must be addressed. We have an opioid epidemic with fentanyl flowing over our southern border. We have a mental health crisis in Pennsylvania. We have issues with regard to artificial intelligence and the impact of that on crime with our seniors in Pennsylvania, with people that are trying to abuse children and identify them and connect with them through the internet. You know, as a dad, I can tell you that I'm very afraid of the world my son has to grow up in. And when we were kids, if you made a mistake, maybe you might not feel well for a day. But in today's world, the reality is it could equal death.
Yeah.
And that's not me, that's not political hyperbole. That's a fact. And it is absolutely critical that we hit these things head on, that we fight them head on, that we follow the rule of law, that we fight for our children, fight for our families, and we do it by following the rule of law.
No doubt. Well, you now look forward. You're going to have to start. I know there's going to be veteran litigators you'll keep that have done a good job. You're bipartisan. You understand that. But you're effectively at the management level, administrative top level. You're bringing in a whole new team. I've already interviewed the former president of the Pennsylvania Society.
Yes.
Of course, Liz Priet-Navy, attorney in her own right. She's one of the co-chairs of your transition team.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about that. But tell us what your goals are as far as changing how the office has operated for a long time. It's been a long time since we've had a Republican.
Sure. Oh, it's been a long time. So it's interesting because when you look at the Attorney General's office, I would say about 95% of the employees are hardworking career public servants that have dedicated their time to that office, that go in every day, do the best they can. They follow the facts and they follow the law. To that point, obviously, from a political perspective, and politics should never come into play when you're making prosecutorial decisions. And I think that's something we actually discussed before.
On the show.
And I just want to take a side trip down that lane. And I want to say that, and this is something we've seen publicly too much lately, but in America, we prosecute crimes, not people. When we start trying to find a person and hang a crime on them, we are in a very bad place. So to that point, that's my philosophy. And so the goal is to create, obviously, an office where people appreciate that they will understand that they will embrace it. And that's what I want to do. I mean, like I said, it's a huge office with tons of career public servants that I look forward to being a colleague with. But at the same time, I want to make sure that people understand that as Dave Sunday as Attorney General will be someone that follows the law, that applies it evenly and fairly, fairly for everything from labor to large companies. We have to have an even playing field, and that's who I am. And so I want to have a leadership team that understands that.
And one final point, even though I'm trying to get you out, is this. I had mentioned quipped effectively later. Sure. You don't, not just a watchdog in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Some of the most important litigation for this country were Republican attorney generals around this whole great country of ours that challenged the Biden administration when they acted in ways that affected their state unconstitutionally.
Sure.
So now, though, we have a united government in a way and a Republican Donald Trump. So at least that part, hopefully you won't be involved in much of that stuff. But
No, you're right. But at the same time, as Attorney General, you're a watchdog for Pennsylvanians.
Right.
And when there's executive overreach, when there's things that occur outside of Pennsylvania that impacts Pennsylvanians in a negative way, that's something that the Attorney General must be ready to look into and act appropriately if needed.
No doubt.
So,
well, Attorney General-elect, congratulations
thank you, my
on a
friend.
great victory.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
And Godspeed on your beginning of a new term for our state.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us for this special edition of the Volpe Report. Be sure to join us next Sunday for part 2. We have more fascinating interviews and great topics we know you'll be interested in.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Volpe Report podcast. Be sure to visit our YouTube and Facebook pages for upcoming episodes. You can catch up on the Volpe Report podcast on your favorite podcast provider.